So that is it for SQL questions. Joins, you have joins, group by, order by, and other classes. So those are pretty much the basics of SQL. So if you are just starting out of SQL, you are new to database and other things, try to just get the basics of SQL. So how to select different columns in a table. So those are the basic questions that you must be able to solve. So if you even don't get those basic questions right, so it is pretty difficult. You'll most likely be unable to clear the simulation test. So make sure that you at least have basics of SQL. So just learn the basics of SQL. So you don't have to have a deeper understanding of different databases out there. We have MySQL, we have Postgres, we have Cassandra, we have a ton of languages, and query languages. We have MySQL. We have a different syntax. Syntax might differ, and T-SQL we use it for Microsoft SQL Server. So and we have Oracle. So there are different query languages for different databases. So most likely you will have the syntaxes the same, but here and there there might be some few minor changes here and there. So make sure that you at least learn one thing in a good way. So MySQL and T-SQL will be slightly different. So make sure that you at least learn MySQL. So that will help you a lot. So just install MySQL, or if you can do it on hackerrank, it is pretty much fine. You can take up the SQL challenge. So they have, like, they go from basics to top tier. So if you are into that, please do take up that. So I'll put you the link on hackerrank, so where you can solve it, or I will show you, where you can take up that hackerrank SQL challenges. So that will help you a lot. So once you start solving SQL problems, right? So once you start solving it, you will get used to that, and you can easily crack your assimilation test. So the MCQs, as I said, it is pretty easy. So you have two tests. So make sure that you attend both. You have the Java or C Sharp, and you have SQL at the end of the day. So make sure that you attend both. Okay, so that you will have. Some people take up, like, I have attended the test in the morning. I'm not sure, or I'm not aware of the test in the afternoon, so I missed it. So there are a lot of cases of that kind. So make sure that you attend both the tests. So they will give you a separate mail or for those. So make sure that you add in your calendar, or you write it down, or take some notes, so that you, or put it in a reminder or something, so that you don't forget your simulation test. So coming back to questions, so can we get some sample questions or previous questions asked during the simulation test? So I don't quite remember my question. So it is some really basic, man. So once you see the pattern we have, right? So we have this pyramid pattern. We have this right angle triangle. So there are basic pattern questions. You might expect a pattern for sure. You might expect something from arrays. So I won't specify the questions. It is like uh, you know okay, let if I tell you the questions, right? So once you clear the simulation test, okay, you don't have the knowledge of programming. Okay, you get into a good domain which is really hard to learn, and then you struggle there. So it is not recommended that you go there and struggle. So instead of that, and if you struggle there, it is waste of your time and their time as well. So once you start struggling at the start, right, so you will struggle the entire internship, and you cannot do well in your end project. So make sure that you stick into your skill set. So I have this skill set, I can work on this. So make sure that you have that kind of a mindset when you go to corporate, or when you move from your college to corporate level. So make sure you do that. You cannot expect this previous year questions like you do in college, right? You have previous year questions and previously asked questions, so it is of no use. So try to don't ask these kind of questions or sample questions. No, I told you, right, it will be purely basic. Just know the basics of programming, you can definitely crack it. So I even told what will the question pattern be. so you can get an idea of what questions to expect. So if you have previously attempted any campus drive or even the hacker earth campus drive, so there are virtual drives or hackathons happening. So if you have attended any of those, you might get an idea of how the questions are asked. So you might expect from pattern. So pattern is for sure, array is for sure, and you might get something in string. So these are pretty much the basics of programming. So once you start programming, you'll know all these, so you can train yourself on these areas. So how do you get the array as an input? How do you get a string? How do you analyze the string and find the number of words, reverse the string? So those are the basic questions that you will get. So try to cope up with those kind of questions. So I already told most of the questions, so do start practicing it so that it will be easy for you to crack it up. So is cut off there for assembly, so they don't have any kind of cut off, so it is percentile. So you have to cross, you have to be good among people, right? So there might be a cutoff, I'm not sure, or there might be you have to be good at with different people. So there might be cutoff like 80 percentage. So above 80 you have to score to get into, you have to clear assimilation test. So another thing I forgot to mention is that in colleges you have 50 percentage, right? So as a pass you will have 80 to 95 percentage in corporate. So make sure that you score above that. Okay, so you can never expect that 50 to 50 percentage or 35 or 40. So they expect people to be very good. So make sure that you hit above 85 or 90. 90 plus is always the good category, or 95 plus 95 plus is pretty good. So make sure that you are in a pretty good state. So 95 plus, I would highly recommend that you hit 95 plus, or even 90 plus is okay, but don't go beyond below that. So that will really be hectic. I know it can really affect your career. So make sure that you hit above 90. So make sure that you solve all the questions. So you there might be places where you cannot find some test cases. So the corner cases, it is difficult to solve, but make sure that you at least do all the other cases test cases are passing or not. So make sure at least you cover all those normal or pretty easy ones. So that will help you a lot. So that is it for cutoff and other things. So I'm having some semester exams from March and internship from third trip. So yeah, so for exams you can get some permission, like you have to mention the number of the timeline that you won't be available uh, uh, in a particular day. So you mail your coach stating that I won't be available for this duration. So once you are done with the duration, you come back to your training. So there is you can they will give you permission to do that. So you can write your exams. What if you are unable to clear assimilation test? So if you are unable to crack the assimilation, don't feel bad. So most people feel bad and they don't do even well in their internship. So even if you don't clear the assimilation test, you will be put in a domain, right? So make sure you shine in the domain, and make sure that you learn different things. So if you have a friend on who has cleared assimilation test, you can ask him or her to explain what are the things that they learn, so you both can learn different things. So I have said this in my previous life. So I had a friend on Selenium. Okay, he's from testing the team. So if you are put in testing, don't feel bad. So even testing is pretty good. So I even learned a lot of things from him. So if you have someone from our different domain, right, so it will help you a lot in learning different things. So with Selenium you can do a ton of things. So you can order things from Flipkart and other things. You can book tackle tickets. You don't have to do it manually, you can automate all those things. So there are pretty cool things that you can do with Selenium. So testing is not pretty bad once you are creative enough to use things in a different way, think from a different perspective. It is really any field or any domain, it is pretty interesting. So make sure you create your interest in yourself, even if you don't clear your assimilation test. So if you don't clear your assimilation test, what will happen is you will be put into a maybe might be a testing domain or legacy domain, like mainframe or different other things. So make sure that you don't lose your hope. Try to keep up and do things. So I hope that answered that question. Moving on, what if I don't have any knowledge on programming? What preparation can? So if you don't have any knowledge on programming, then it is really difficult for you to crack. But you can. It takes just 2 to 3 weeks to learn things. If you're already into programming, then it is pretty easy to grasp the basics of C sharp and you can easily crack it. But if you're pretty new to programming, then it is pretty difficult to train you on. So if you're interested to learn, right, so once you create the interest on yourself to learn programming, any language or want to learn programming, it is pretty easy. So it takes at least 2 to 3 weeks to get at least a grasp of what is a compiler and what is an interpreter and how these things work under the hood and how things are happening when you write some programs and you get your output, and you need some time to for your brain to understand new things. So it takes some time, but you can do it. So if you have time, you can definitely do it. So 13th, right? So you have a ton of time. So make sure that you use it wisely and start preparing from today. So at least 2 to 3 hours of day of preparation for programming will do. So make sure that you at least do that. So it will help you a lot. It will save you a lot of time. Going from basic domain. So another thing that I would suggest you is that if you are new to programming, right, so you can definitely skip the assimilation test. So you will be taught from the basic, or you will be considered as base level. So even if you don't do well, right, in different domains, so once, let's say you are put into some full stack, which is more people join in, and there are a ton of people who are learning full stack, and they already know all the basics of programming. They start learning frameworks and go really fast, so they complete all the hands-ons really fast, and you are the you feel like you are discouraged, and you will feel you are the last person in the class. So those things can really hurt you a lot. So make sure that you learn it, or else you have to learn it slowly. So make sure you switch, or you have your feelings intact. So there are, I have seen a lot of people doing that. So they get the code from other people, they copy it, and they just paste it, and then they enter into a good domain, and they struggle there. So you will definitely struggle once you get there. So you will have a one-to-one interview, so you cannot copy from anywhere on one-to-one interview. So the interviewer will ask you to code different things, so you can never do that. So it will really help it is really disgusting to if someone is asking you to code the same code that you have done, and you are unable to do that, then it is not like it is really not that you're showing your honesty to them. So this really the integrity that helps you a lot. So you will learn those kind of values. They will teach you a lot in during your internship. So you will have your language training, so they will teach you a lot about integrity and other things.